everyone can hear. Can we see? Can you guys see me as well? If you can put a thumbs up, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I can see you.
Thank you so much. I love that we already have 60 people present. That's amazing. Thank you guys for being on time. So happy and excited to be here. So let's get the ball rolling immediately so we don't waste any more time. Thank you guys so much for being here. So welcome to our first edition of Ask the Immigration Advisor. So it's going to be a free Q&A session where you get to basically offload any questions that you have pertaining to university, whether it's tuition fees, whatever is going on, or if it's just your immigration status, anything going on there, or if it's, as far as apprenticeships and jobs, etc. I'd also appreciate if we can go
I'll
on
finish.
mute.
Whatever I see, I'll let you know.
I'd appreciate if we could just go on mute. That would be amazing. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, if we can get the ball rolling right immediately. So like I said, it's going to be a Q&A session. We'll get into that as we go along. But just for a bit of intro, my name is Angela Oluwa. I don't know if you can see my name on the screen by my video, but that's my name. My name is Angela. So I'm the programs lead at Blossom and Beyond Borders. So a little quick, idea of what I do. I just help when it comes to planning and prepping for programs like this, which there will be more of soon. But that's kind of what I do at BBB. But yeah, so today we have Tulia Group with us, and they are an amazing, group of people that kind of a social enterprise. So they support and provide legal advice for migrants. So anybody going through that immigration process, and they're based in the UK. I believe they're in Coventry. They have regular drop-in sessions every Thursday just for legal advice for people that are, working in health and social care. And they're also based in Manchester, Ireland, and Zimbabwe as well. And we also have someone really amazing here with us today, but we'll be introducing her as we go along. To get right into it, we have an icebreaker just to kind of see how we're feeling today, this evening. So if we can, on our phones, iPads, tablets, whatever we have going on, I want you guys to open up Wool Clap. So hopefully the slides will change soon to show you the QR code. So we'll be doing our icebreaker on Wool Clap. Yeah. So if you go to woolclap.com and you put the code in, oh, we've got 100 people. Hi everyone. So if you can go to Woolclap and you put the code in, the code should be on your screen, YHNSDKJ. So if you put that code in, then you join, and then you see some questions pop up on your screen. Yep. So if you guys can join the Wool Club, we have 30 participants and we have 108 of us on the call. So if you can try and join, that would be amazing. Yeah, you can put thumbs up in the Wool Club chat if you're feeling excited. I think 41 is a good number, so we can probably start just to get the icebreaker rolling. But if you haven't, do make sure to log into Wool Club as soon as you can. Yeah, so for the icebreaker question, in one word, how would you describe your immigration journey so far? How do you join? So if you go on your Chrome or your Google, someone put in the chat, how do I join? Chrome, Google, whatever you use, go to woolclap.com. If you check your screen, you can see on there wooclap.com, and then you use the code that is on there, YHNSDKJ. I'm loving the answers. Are like someone put roller coaster. I'm sure that's quite relatable. So yeah, keep putting your answers in. How has your immigration journey been so far? Have you loved it? Have you hated it? Have you enjoyed it? Has it been half and half? You know, have you made friends? Have you been able to integrate, assimilate? Are you still kind of at the start of the journey? Are you right at, not really right at the end, but has it been years and years? Are you used to the UK? Things like that. Someone said 50-50, very relatable. Someone said amazing. I love that. Someone said tumultuous. Okay. Keep putting your answers in there. Stressful is a big one on the screen. That's a big one on the screen. Yep. So if you haven't logged into WooClap, do well to log in, put the code in, and drop your answer because we will be using WooClap later on. Someone said roller coaster in the chat. Relatable. I've seen lovely. Someone said hate it. We hope you love it because you can't. Because with a major change, we can't expect you to, feel at ease immediately, and that's fine. We've got challenging, enlightening, hectic, uncertain. Someone said weird in the chat. Fair enough. Uncertain is a word. Is a. And one thing about me is I don't like uncertainty. And moving can bring about. Someone said dark. Enoch, what's going on? Why is it dark? There'll be lights. Don't worry. After this meeting, you'll get lights. Revelation. So yeah. If you haven't logged into Clap, do well. We've got 137 people on the chat, so I'm sure more and more people will be joining. Do well to log into Clap. Okay, so just to kind of, I'd appreciate if we could go on mute. You know, sorry. Someone said trusting God all the way through. Stressful is one of the big ones that I'm seeing. So the event code is on the top. And it's understandable that people would be stressed, but hopefully by the end of this meeting, we'll be able to get our questions answered. Just to go on to the next slide. So if you want a drum roll, if you feel excited enough, you can drum roll. I'll drum roll. But today we have someone really amazing from. Can you guys still hear me? Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Put a thumbs up if you can hear me in the chat.
Yes,
Sorry.
we
Yeah, okay,
can.
thank you. So like the slide says, who do we have in the room today? Who is going to be our immigration advisor? So I'd like you guys to, you've been dropping your heart emojis, your excited emojis. So today we have Rumbuzai Vunzawabawa, an immigration advisor at Tulia. She's a solicitor. She specializes in advising people like us, advising individuals, families that are going through that immigration journey and just on a range of different matters. And in layman's terms, she knows exactly what she's doing, and we're in the best hands, basically. So up next, we'll be having Tulia just to give us that presentation and to just kind of keep the ball rolling.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you to the BBB team. You guys are absolutely brilliant and you're doing a fantastic job. It's amazing how you are empowering each other as young people, and your organization is amazing. And I'm really happy to be here tonight. So my name is Rumbi Funzawabaya. I will do just a short presentation and then leave time for questions. But hopefully, just some of the issues that I'll cover may cover some of the questions that you already have. So hopefully, some of them will be covered. So I know that this organization is for dependents, it's for children who have come here with their parents. So this session is tailored mainly towards the issues perhaps that you are experiencing as young people, as dependents. So, oh, sorry, yeah. So as dependents rather than just general. So my slides are about understanding your visa rights as a dependent, as a dependent child. And so just a little bit about Tulia. We offer legal advice and support for migrants. We have Tulia Group CIC, and we also have Tulia Outreach. Tulia Outreach is a charity, and we provide assistance for people who are destitute, who are homeless, street homeless, or who are in hospital, who are sick, people who are unable to just look after their basic needs and have got no recourse to public funds. So Tulia Outreach is an arm of the work that we do. Tulia CIC provides the legal advice, and we also do advice drop-ins. We do webinars like this. We do training, and yeah, quite a lot of work. So we work with migrants mainly from Africa, but from all over the world. So we've been established since 2018, but I've been a solicitor since I think many of you maybe were not yet born. So I've been a solicitor since 1998. I was admitted as a solicitor in 1998 and 2003 in the UK. So initially in Zimbabwe and then here in England and Wales. So I have been practicing law for many years now. And I'm also a migrant like most of you. And I've had a roller coaster of an immigration journey. So today what I'm just gonna jump onto, I don't know if I'm gonna cover all of this, but I will just cover a few things and then just go. We're talking about skilled worker dependence, the age, eligibility rules, where you're covered, what independent life means. And I think that's something that has been discussed quite a bit. What does independent life look like? Covering some of the cases where the issue of independent life has been discussed, ILR and settlement, what to look out for, what to prepare for, what does the future look like, what changes, what's happening with the earned settlement. You probably have some questions about that. Common problems and pitfalls, options if you are estranged from your parents, if there's trouble, and you become estranged from your parents for many reasons, what options do you have? So it's important to look at those options. So so this, as I've said, that this slide is tailored towards children and dependents of skilled workers. So skilled workers in various visa categories, who were born outside of the UK or who were born here. So if you came as a child and your parent has the skilled worker visa and you're added as a dependent, most likely under 18 at the time. So some of you are 18 and some of you are post 18. Some of you, congratulations, have just received great results this week and last week. So all of you are on different levels. You may be still at school or you may be at university and your parents sponsor you. So your visa status as a dependent child, if you've come with your parents, gives you the right to work, study, live in the UK with your parents, as long as you are still dependent on your parents and you haven't formed a separate family unit. So we know that you can be under 18 when you come, and then some people have become over 18 when they've been living in the UK. So most people came when they were a child and were not leading an independent life. And then they can continue on as a dependent to extend your leave to remain with your parents on the same, as long as you're on the same visa route. So if you've come in as a dependent and you were granted leave as an entry, as a dependent of a skilled worker, even if you turn 18, you can continue on as a dependent. Child of the same parent, your permission, your leave to remain must be valid, and you must not be living an independent life. And if you're applying for settlement, you then have to pass the Life in the UK test and the English test. So I'm just going to talk just briefly about the leading an independent life and what that actually means. So there is a test of independent life. And what does that look like? What does independent life look like? So one of the conditions is that you don't have a partner. So you're not married, you're not in a civil partnership, you're not in a relationship similar to marriage that has lasted 2 or plus years. And then condition 2 is you live at home or you live away because you're studying full-time at school, at college, university. So you may even be studying at university in another country, but you go away for university and you come back home. So if you're at university in another city and you're living in halls of residence, then you're in full-time education, you're still dependent on your parents. If you're living at home whilst you're working, you also still living at home with your parents and you haven't formed your own independent family life, you still pass. Sometimes the Home Office may make decisions where they say you're not independent. And we then have to prove that you are still dependent and you pass that independent life test. But if you become married and then you live separately from your parents, or if you decide that you don't want to live with them and you go and live by yourself in another city where you're working and you're living your own life, then you're no longer dependent. You are now independent. If you become independent, then that means you can no longer rely on your parents' visa for your right to stay. So you then become an independent person who can look after themselves, pay their own bills, and live in their own house, pay their own rent. So you no longer need to be with your parents. If you're married or or you decide that you've fallen in love, then you become independent. But there are some gray areas. So not everything is black and white. Not everything is black and white. I will stress that a lot. Not everything is black and white. So sometimes you may be, I've got my own job and I'm earning my own money. And I'm earning a lot of money and I can afford to live by myself. And when you're financially self-sufficient, it doesn't automatically mean that you're leading an independent life. There have been decisions that have gone to the court where the courts have said the key question is whether you have, through a choice, separated from your parents, family, to form your own social unit. So that's something that's very important to think about. So this case NM is an old case, 2007. No doubt there'll be more new cases coming now, but that's a case that we've relied on where we've had refusals. So sometimes you can be working whilst living at home, but you're still dependent. The Home Office can sometimes make decisions where they say you're earning enough money to live by yourself and to be independent. And those are the areas where we need to challenge, produce evidence to show that you're still dependent and that you're still part of the family unit and you have not you've not set up your own family unit. So I've had a case recently where a young person was working a lot because they wanted to save up for university. So they wanted, because they were not able to get student finance, so they were working and saving. The Home Office said that they're independent, but then they're not. I don't know what's happened there. They're not independent. So because they were saving up for university. So those are some of the things that come up. I live with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, but we've only been together for 18 months. Still a partner, it could trigger a refusal because you're living away from home. You formed your own family unit. If you go back and visit family in your country of origin for a few months at a time and you come in and go out, that would not necessarily mean that you're living an independent life. But if you are just living in Nigeria, living in Ghana, living in Zimbabwe for very long periods of time, because maybe you've fallen in love, or you're living with another parent, or you are just wanting to live there for a long period of time, that as well is something that will be called into question as to where, if you have now formed an independent life outside of the UK. So you need to keep an eye on your absences, but it doesn't mean you can't go on a solo trip, on a holiday with your friends. You can. Um, if you live, my parents support me financially, but I live in my own flat near university. If you're living away from home purely for because of full-time education, this is allowed. So that's all the type of gray area. So there are lots of nuances and lots of things to test. And these are some of the decisions that have come out in the past, like the case of NM. I've talked about the social unit test, that do you have your own um independent life where you live separate from your family, or are you just working and living at home? So we have to look at all the facts, look at all your bills, look at all of the evidence to show that you're living at home. Another case that came up was a 20-year-old man working full time, earning £700 to £1,000 a month, living rent free with his parents. That appeal was allowed because he was not leading an independent life, even though he was working. It didn't mean that he was living alone. Um, another case where they didn't have any evidence to show that you're living at home. So you must have strong evidence, bank statements, utility bills, letters, your GP registration, even like your your bank statements. All of that should show that you're living at home. So the evidence that you keep is very important. So keep evidence of your whole relationship with your parents. Uh, Keep evidence, even WhatsApp logs showing daily family life, evidence of shared address like your utility bills. If you're over 18, keep all of that. So the evidence is so important because the evidence should show that you're part of the family unit. So the evidence should always show that. I think we all know what ILR is, but we may have some questions here, so I'll answer those later. We'll also talk about the questions. I don't know who's playing with this. I don't know what's happening to the slides. So yeah, we can talk about the changes probably with questions, but I'm just going to jump on to challenges that you may face. So turning 18, even when you apply for indefinite leave to remain, you need to write the English test and the Life in the UK test but as a person on your own, and you don't need to like some parents will ask, but my child has been educated here, they've got GCSEs, they've got A levels in English, those don't count towards proving the English language test. You would have to either have a degree, a UK degree or equivalent from outside of the UK, or you have to sit the English test and also the life in the UK test. So make sure that you when you turn 18, do sit those tests and get ready. If you fall in love, it could cost you your status because your relationship that can look like not just having a boyfriend or just having a girlfriend, but where you choose to live together or you get married, it means that you fail the independent life test. So that's really important to think about. Long trips abroad, that's something that can affect you. Moving out for university, it's okay, but just keep all your university enrollment letters, your documents, keep evidence if you're doing an apprenticeship, keep all of that evidence. And this challenge that you may face is a real one about where parents lose their visas. So if your parents are skilled workers, if their visa is revoked or they lose their job or their sponsor loses their license, you may be left with just 60 days to find an alternative route. And the reality is that the challenges that your parents face at work, they do affect your status because you are dependent on your parents. So it can be an issue where your parents face disciplinary action at work or they lose their job for whatever reason, or the license gets revoked and they're not able to find a switch. This will obviously affect you as a dependent as well. And I think other issues that are affecting you are the funding issues relating to your fees, like the international fees as a student. So if you have any of these issues that you may have when you're turning 18, it's important to look at some of the issues like options that you have, and I'll discuss those relevant to questions that you will ask. And then also just things to look out for yourself. Know your visa expiry date. Write it down. Set a reminder. Make sure that you apply before it expires. Never, ever, ever, ever let your visa lapse, please. So even as you grow up and become an adult, even though you're dependent, keep your visa expiry date. Track your absences, sort out your English qualification, build your evidence files as young people. Just keep evidence that you're dependent, that you're part of the family. Study for the Life in the UK test because you're going to need that for your indefinite leave to remain. And if you're going to make some big decisions, get legal advice, sit in on the legal advice with your parents and really just go through all of the options that are available to you. So this is just a short summary, which I thought would just start us off, and then we'll go into questions that you have or questions that you've asked now. And I think that will address the issue of exactly where you are. And also just yeah, and I think the questions that I'm going to prioritize are the questions from the dependent children, I think, because this is your platform and it's your space. So I think those are the questions that we will definitely put a priority on because you've organized this for yourselves. And I think that's really important. So how do you want us to do this? Are you going to read the questions? Or, yeah, I can see you've got something. Yeah.
So we're going back to Wool Clap. Can I just say thank you so much, Rembi, for that amazing presentation. I don't know about you, but I was taking notes because we're definitely going to need that information later on. So we are going to jump into our Q&A session really quickly. I know some people have been dropping some questions in the chat. Thank you guys so much. If you could copy paste your questions and go back to Wool Clap. So I'm more in like a more organized kind of system, and just for like a format of how to, you know, or write your questions down. I want if we can all just write our questions and kind of what's been bothering you or what the issue is, and you know what you've tried to do, in the sense that what other options have you kind of done, or like what things have you done about it. For example, if I was to say, oh, I've read about apprenticeships, etc., and I've tried to apply for level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, but this is the issue. So if everyone can just go back to whoopclap.com and use the code YHNSTKJ and then put your question
Is it just me or are you
in
dragging?
there, that would be amazing.
Okay. Okay. Some people have asked if you could repost the QR code.
Yep. So Ruby, I think this is the first question that we have, so we'll just pass it on to you.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm currently living.
Me?
Yes, yes. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I'm finished as well as that.
Yes, okay. Yes. All right. Okay. Brilliant.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So I'm currently living in the UK as a dependent on my parents' work visa and planning to study medicine. If I stay on my dependent visa when I start university, would I be eligible for home student fees or would I have to pay international fees? And if I decide to study medicine outside the UK, for example, Nigeria or another country, but I keep my UK dependent status, return to the UK several times a year because the UK remains my base, will that affect my eligibility? Would the amount of time I spend outside count as absence protect and potentially break my continuous residence? So, as a dependent child, also, first of all, in relation to the student finance, before you have your indefinite leave to remain, you would not qualify for the home fees. However, you can study abroad. So you can study abroad if you have a place and go and study in Nigeria, and then as long as you are there for study, and then you travel back to the UK for holidays, for breaks, and you come back. For dependent spouses, the 180 days in a absences in a year count when you're applying for your ILR, for indefinite leave to remain. However, for children, there that requirement is not there to break the continuous residence for children. And that's found in Appendix Children. So there is an appendix to the immigration rules which covers for indefinite leave to remain the requirements for children. So it's reading the immigration rules alongside with the appendix. So the continuous residence, the absence does apply to adults like spouses and partners, but not for children. So I would also keep a record. So some children, we applied for children who study abroad in boarding school and then come to the UK for indefinite leave to remain for holidays, and they've been able to apply with their parents when their absences are related to school. The only caveat that I would put to this is if you're studying abroad and just say you end up receiving the 60-day letter, curtailment letter, if anything happens, because when your parents are on a skilled worker visa, especially in the climate that we're living in now, with all the rule changes and also with just the the precarious nature of employment. So if, for example, something happens and they get fired, or if they have if they're banned from driving or and they can't keep their job and anything happens and they get the 60-day letter. So if you get the curtailment letter and you're outside of the UK, then you won't be able to re-enter the UK. So you could end up inadvertently not being able to come back. And every time that you re-enter, the immigration officers can ask questions about what you're doing, your studies, and they can interrogate you and ask questions because every time you exit, when you're entering, the immigration officers have a right to refuse you entry or to grant you entry. So whilst you can, there's no bar or no barrier to you being able to study abroad. There are risks that come with that. And the risks are, yeah, they're risks. And those are the type of issues that we then have to deal with when somebody can't come back because they've had the 60-day letter or where they faced questions at immigration if their parents, like if, sometimes there's just instability around employment. And every time you're being questioned with all this travel up and down, it can cause some challenges. So I would say you can proceed with caution, obviously. However, it's just something to bear in mind that maybe your biggest worry is not about the eligibility for ILR, but maybe there may be concerns around re-entry and things like that. So there may be other things that you're facing as a risk. But sadly, without being, you wouldn't be able to qualify for the student finance, but you may be able to qualify for scholarships and to look for scholarships. And again, this question also depends on where you live in the UK. If you live in Scotland, then the rules are slightly different to England and Wales. So it's important to also just check with student finance and make sure that you know what the situation is for where you live, because I think we have people from all over the UK and the rules are different for the different areas where you live. And I also want to put a caveat to say this is general information. It's not legal advice for you to rely on because I don't know the facts. This could be a hypothetical situation. So it's important for me to know all the facts. So this is not legal advice for you to say, 100% my legal advisor told me this. It is general advice, just in a general setting. So because people may have different nuances and there may be different aspects to it. So where you're making such big decisions, I would definitely sit down with my parents, go and sit down with the immigration advisor, look at all the pros and cons, and then make a decision that is really tailored to you. Because I would ask things about the stability of your parents' employment. I would look at how long you've got to ILR and look at all of those issues before making such big decisions, especially about studying abroad. Yeah. We can go on to the next question. I've got some of the questions that you sent me. I could probably ask one of those because you had sent me some of the questions before. You said, can I start a degree apprenticeship if my current dependent visa doesn't cover the full program? So you can start your degree apprenticeship if it doesn't cover the full program, but it depends on the provider because you can extend your leave to remain. So some of the like the people who'll be employing you and giving you the apprenticeship may say that they can't take you if you don't have enough leave to remain to cover the full period of the apprenticeship. So it's on a case-by-case basis, and it's important to just find that out from the individual who's offering you the apprenticeship. But apply and just try. Yeah. And will apprenticeship affect my 19-year-old? I'm due for indefinite leave to remain next year, or should he just wait to apply for the apprenticeship after obtaining the indefinite leave to remain? So that's a question that a lot of people are like wondering about. So apprenticeship is education and employment. So it is similar to being in full-time in like full-time education. So I wouldn't advise him to delay his apprenticeship because you're due for indefinite leave to remain. So a dependent child is allowed to study and they are allowed to work. So the apprenticeship is not it's not something that is prohibited. But the important thing again is not leading an independent life. So the apprenticeship itself should not affect the indefinite leave to remain, and he doesn't have to wait for that. But he just has to demonstrate that he is not leading uh, an independent life. That's the most important thing. And also, if you've got 1 year left, the provider may say, that they'll wait until they've got like longer leave to remain. As a dependent, can I start a legal business with a co-founder? And will this affect my visa or my indefinite leave to remain? I want to start an AI startup with a co-founder. I've checked my visa requirement. It says I can. Do you think this will affect me? So, so if it depends as well as a dependent. Are you dependent child, dependent partner? You can start and run a business in the UK with with a co-founder. So you are allowed to be self-employed. The only work that you can not do is a professional sportsman or sports coach. So if you were picked to play for Arsenal or something, you wouldn't be able to do that. But you can be a company director. So in itself, starting a business, it doesn't jeopardize your future ILR. However, again, if your business means that you're going to have to live in London, in Canary Wharf, because you've made so much money and you're living with your business partner away from your parents in Coventry, then you're living an independent life. But if you're at home and you've got a startup and you're just working on your business and you're director, you're doing it from your bedroom at home, you are living at home. So I'm always going to go back to that independent life test. Are you living an independent life, running your business? Or are you running a business and still being dependent on your parents? So it's important to keep that in mind about every decision. So starting a business doesn't necessarily mean your business is going to be a resounding success. You're going to make millions overnight. So you can start a business and still not even have enough money to look after yourself and be dependent on your parents. So the dependency is the key. And that's what we always have to look at. Are you dependent? Are you living an independent life? What does dependency look like? So dependency doesn't just look like financial. It's staying in the house, following the rules of the house, um, being part of that family unit and not being a person who's living their own life, doing their own thing, forming their own social unit. So I hope that answers that and probably a lot of other questions about what can I do in relation to work, etc. Ah, that's an interesting one. Thank you for putting that one. So 19 years, dependent, just finished college, mom got a new job in a new city, but I stayed back with a family friend. We talk constantly. She sends me money. Will that affect getting ILR in the future? And do I need to change my address to hers? So I've had a similar case, where a child was living with her aunt, and this was an application for an extension of leave to remain, and the Home Office was now minded to refuse it because they've said you formed a new family unit with your aunt. So you need to make plans to live with your mom in the same family unit as your mother. So it may be that you have a temporary period of time where she's settling in a new city and she cannot like you couldn't move straight away. However, this situation where you're living with family friend has to be a temporary situation so that you do then go back to the family unit and live with your mom. So we had to give an explanation of why this child was not living with their parent, why were they living with their aunt. It was around education because they couldn't get a place for school, and we had to show all of the evidence and explain everything and show the visits, train trips back and forth. So, going on a train every weekend to visit, showing the train tickets, showing the constant communication, but also the plans to then move to the city where mom was living. So if we've got a reasonable explanation that she needed time to raise the deposit, and make plans for you to then join, and you needed to stay there to finish college, and so you couldn't move when your mom had to move, but you are making plans to then go back as live together as a family. It's important for you to show that and to explain, so they wouldn't just take it that you're living in separate addresses. That will be a flag. It will be a red flag straight away. Why are you living apart? So there has to be an explanation, and there has to be a plan, and there has to be evidence that you're still part of the same family unit and you haven't formed a new family unit with a new family. So that again is really important to think about. So it's also I know everyone is worried about indefinite leave to remain, but this can also affect you at extensions. So that's where I've seen that happening when there's an extension of leave to remain, or where there's where you're applying for indefinite leave and they ask for evidence to show that you've been living together and you're dependent. So they do ask for this evidence. And one of the things that I want to highlight is I talked about a legal case called NM, which is a 2007 case. So the issues that we are experiencing now as dependents with their parents and indefinite leave are not new. They're issues that have been there since time. And so when we give this advice, it's based on like so many like experiences that have been there. So that's why it's so important for you not to mess up your status, and to be and if it's a temporary reason for school, then explain that, but make plans to move. So an asylum seeker who's just finished sixth form and classed as an international student, yes. So with the apprenticeship, do you have a right to work, or do you not have a right to work? So asylum seekers can study. In some instances, they can work when you've been given a right to work. So with an apprenticeship, you also need a right to work as well as to study. And so you may therefore not be eligible for an apprenticeship, because it's the right to work checks which would then determine whether you can do an apprenticeship or not. So where you're an asylum seeker, it's slightly different because asylum seekers don't have an automatic right to work. I'm not sure how.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it. I'm not sure how true that is. Just wanted to clarify that it won't.
Mhm.
Could you roll down a bit? I
Okay.
can't read the bottom. Yeah, that it won't affect me. So I was eligible, given travel bursary while in college, as I lived far from school. I inquired at the bursary at my school, and they said the money for the bursary is from the ESFA and not the government. So that should be fine. And there's also a list of what are recourse to public funds on the gov.uk website. And so that demonstrates all of the public funds which are counted as public funds. So this should not affect you, as the money is from a different fund. So there are certain pockets of money which can be given to people, even people on no recourse to public funds. And if you check with the people who are giving it, but also double check on gov.uk where they've got a list of public funds, because sometimes other people may not know, and it may then be public funds, but there are certain things that you're entitled to, and funds which make it easier for you, like the travel bursary. Some is from the school's own funds, and so they'll give it to you at their discretion. So just double check, and then always check on the Home Office website as well, because that information is there in the public domain. Mm. So, so yeah, so with the apprenticeships applications, some do require that you have, like, if it's 3 years, they require you to have 3 years on your visa before they'll grant you um the job and the opportunity. And sadly, as there may be some opportunities, because apprenticeships are run by different companies, so they'll have their own policies, they'll have their own rules. And it's not like a blanket policy to say you need to. So if they're investing in you, and if your visa will end halfway through, or they may feel that it's not worth the investment because they've got no guarantee that they'll get a return on their investment, or that you will then able to qualify. So it's just looking for the apprenticeship that will take you, keep applying, don't give up, don't be discouraged, but always check with them if that is a requirement before perhaps going through the whole process, because it's so disappointing once you're offered and then they check your visa. So it may be worth asking them what their policy is before going through the whole process. Um, and the reason why is because the leave to remain is limited. And so they look at that in terms of how much they are investing in you by training you, paying for the fees and the education. And that's why some companies will say that they won't take on apprenticeships where there's limited leave to remain, or a certain, like if there's just 1 or 2 years, if it's a 3-year program. If your parents sponsor you financially to study with international fees, that would not affect your leave to remain or your indefinite leave to remain. That's fine. They can sponsor you. So if you're earning money via YouTube, what is the channel? You should have told us so we can follow you and subscribe. But well done for doing that and earning an income. It won't affect if you, it depends on your immigration status. So you didn't say whether you're a dependent or you're the skilled worker. So that's important to know as well, because your immigration status impacts that question. So if you are the skilled worker, then it could affect your indefinite leave to remain. If you're working and spending more than 20 hours, or even content creating is not one of the supplementary employments that's on the immigration salary list or in the immigration list. So you have to just check whether you're not in breach of your conditions if you're the skilled worker. But if you're the dependent, then there's no limit on where you work. and definitely pay tax if you're register yourself as self-employed and declare your income. If you're a dependent and you're earning income on YouTube, declare it. You shouldn't hide your income. And so you do have to declare it and pay tax on it, unfortunately, because you end up catching up with you. Hmm. So if your parents have lost their sponsorship, how do we stay legal after 60 days? It's important to keep trying to find a switch, and keep trying to find another sponsor, or to make an application before your leave to remain expires under a different visa category if you're unable to find employment. So it's looking to see, can I qualify for the global talent visa? Can I qualify for a student visa? How will that cover my family? Can I qualify for leave to remain on other grounds? Can I qualify for leave to remain on yeah, different grounds depending on your circumstances, and looking at all the factors around your family life and what other visa category you can qualify for if you're not able to find a switch. If you're still looking for employment and you're applying, but you've got offers that come after the 60 days, then you need to ensure that you protect your right to remain and make an application for leave to remain based on your private life, based on the fact that you are applying and the 60 days hasn't been enough and you need more time. So you can apply, but that's not an application that will necessarily be successful. But what you have to do before your visa expires, you do have to put in a valid application. That's the only way that you can continue to stay. Because if you don't make a valid immigration application, even to tell the Home Office to say, look, I'm applying because I'm looking for work, you have to tell them. So it's not an application that is like has a high chance of succeeding, but what it does is it protects your right to stay, your right to rent, your right to work whilst you're looking for another employer, or looking for other options. Even so, it's important to not let day 61 come. You have to make an application before your leave to remain lapses for yourselves and so if you're the parent, for you and the children, so that everyone stays here lawfully. And then if you then get a sponsorship, whilst you're waiting for that application to be decided, you can then vary it back to a skilled worker. So you can then vary the application back to a skilled worker. But the important thing is that you have been living here lawfully. So if you don't do anything, then you now become an overstayer and you're now living here unlawfully. And then it's very difficult to get back onto your the visa route that you were on. So if you've lost your sponsorship, please make an immigration application before. If you cannot afford the immigration fees, then you can apply for a fee waiver so that you don't have to pay, because the fees are very high. It's about 4,000 a person, 1.4 immigration fees, 2,587 immigration health surcharge. And so if you can't afford that, then you have to apply for a waiver of the fees, which will then enable you to make the visa application. So a fee waiver in itself is not a visa application. It's asking for, it's a request for the fees to be waived. but it does, once you've made it, it does allow you to continue to live here lawfully whilst you're waiting for it to be decided, and then you then have to make the relevant application after. So I can't really answer you to say what money is safe to be earned on a monthly basis that will keep you as a dependent. What's important is that you are not living a separate life on your own. You're not living independently of your parents. If you are earning, say, 5,000-6,000 pounds a month, that's a lot of money. If you're earning 2,000 pounds a month, so when you're working as a young person, you might be earning 700, 1,000. I can't say to you what money is safe, but what I can point you back to is what is the independent life test, because that's the important thing for you to bear in mind, that are you living an independent life? Have you formed your own family unit? Do you have enough? Sometimes the Home Office will make a conclusion that you're earning a lot of money, enough to live independently by yourself, but you're not living, if you're not living independently and you're still living as part of the family unit, the fact that you earn money does not mean that you are independent and you're living an independent life, because you could be earning a decent amount of money, like you could be earning maybe 2,000 a month, but that doesn't mean you're independent. It just means that's how much you're earning. So we have an arguable case when we can show that you're still living at home, you're still under your parents' roof, you're still part of their family unit. And so that is important. And that's why when I started this presentation, I started with that independent life test and the cases that have been decided around that issue, to answer these type of questions, because it's you can't say if you earn this much then you're not independent, because that's not the measure of independence. But if you decide that I want to go and work in a factory in London and live in London by myself, then you're independent because you've moved away from the family and you're living your own separate life. Yeah. Yeah, all right. My parents' company lost their COS since last year. The Home Office contacted them that the company had sponsored them had lost their license, but they didn't give a timeline of 60 days. What should they do? Because their visa and right to work is still valid until 2028, but COS that brought them has been revoked. Main applicant has not been working for the past year since it was revoked. How will this affect their dependent children? What can they do? So the
Well,
Home Office may not issue them the 60 days.
yeah, the matter.
The Home Office may not issue them the 60 days letter, and they haven't been for companies where the license has been revoked. They haven't been issuing those letters. But what the main applicant has to do is apply for keep looking for a new sponsor, because you won't get indefinite leave to remain just on the basis that you finished 5 years on the skilled worker visa. You still need to have a sponsor. So for indefinite leave to remain, you still need to have a sponsor. So you need to have finished the 5 years, but you won't qualify for indefinite leave to remain if you do not have the sponsor. So you still need to have, you have the 5 years continuous residence, but you also have a sponsor who will write a letter to say that you're still required for the job. So it's important for you for your sponsor to still have a valid sponsor. So they still need to look for a sponsor and not rely on the fact that their visa expires in 2028. Um, and so it's looking for work anywhere in Ireland, Scotland, Jersey, Wales, everywhere. Just continue looking. So the main applicant should continue looking to protect the children and the spouse, because if you then reach 2028 and you still don't have a sponsor, then you may not qualify. So it's so important to find that sponsor. And I think this is an area where some people can relax because the dependents are working. So, the main applicant may have had the license revoked and they're not working, but the dependents continue to work and the visa remains valid, and it can cause people to have a false sense of security, because you may think, oh, well, we've got until 2028, but look how time goes fast. And the time goes so quickly. And if the main applicant doesn't have a sponsor by 2028, the indefinite leave to remain will not succeed. And then also, you may end up finding that everyone has to now go back to their country of origin. So whilst the Home Office is not actively sending the 60-day letters, they're giving skilled workers more time, especially in the health and care sector, to apply for switches and move. So I think it's really important to do that, to look for a switch. You're spoiled for choice. So many questions.
We're just gonna pick one. Yeah, this one.
I think I've answered this one, because we talked about that with the Nigerian student who wanted to go and study medicine. So it shouldn't really affect you. So as long as you're coming back, keep evidence that you're studying. So quite a lot of students are studying. Some study in like their countries of origin, or Georgia. Before it used to be Ukraine. So keep a record of your studies, please, and come back for your holidays, and keep keep a trail of that, and keep that for your indefinite leave to remain. It shouldn't affect you as long as you're still dependent and coming back. There is a question that you said I wanted to answer that question. It's in the chat. I've just seen it, and I think it says, "Help me understand. My visa was revoked in February, and I was the primary applicant. I've not been able to find sponsorship. However, my husband has been offered sponsorship. And what happens to me and the children? Does the visa cover me and the children? And we're close to indefinite leave to remain. We came in January 2023. So for this question, it depends as well in what field your husband got the sector. If the husband got sponsorship as a carer or a senior carer, then he wouldn't be able to add dependents as he like the wife and the children as dependents, because of the rule change that happened in March 2024. So he'll be able to get the visa for himself, but not necessarily for the mother and the children. If there were children who were born in the UK, they could be dependents, or if he had sole responsibility for the children, then they would be able to be added as dependents. But the changes in the rules mean that he wouldn't be able to sponsor them. Also in other sectors. So it depends what sector he is, because that was added to more sectors. And you would also be starting again the counting towards your ILR. So the years that you have done that he has done as a dependent no longer count. So he'd be starting again from year one, And if you then became his dependents, like just say the Home Office granted your leave to remain and they gave an exception and you were dependents, or if it's in a, like say for example, he's an accountant and he can have dependents, then you're all starting again from 1 year. So you wouldn't be able to just apply for indefinite leave to remain because you've changed the main applicant. So you're starting again from scratch. But it's better to have something than nothing. So if the sponsor license has been revoked and your husband has got the sponsorship, it's better than nothing. But it depends what sector he's in, and whether that sector allows for dependents, because it could be like a doctor or something, or a nurse or other sectors. So yeah, so that's the important question. My mother, okay, carry on. If I can see the rest of the question.
I think you've answered something related.
Okay.
Do you still want to answer it?
Yeah, my dilemma is that what should I do between now I'm able to attend instead I'm considering staying at home, attending college and education, and working. Let's see. Let's keep going alongside my studies. I'm worried because I'm already 20. Yeah. So you can stay at home and it'll be good for you to attend college and work. But definitely stay at home with your mother. So don't go and live by yourself. If you work and stay at home, that's fine. If you attend college and do another course and stay at home, if there's something that you can do that can help you towards preparation for university, or if you can get a college course that's relevant to what you want to study, then definitely use up that year to do that. Um, but if you wanted to just save up for when you go to university, you can also stay at home and work and do that, as long as you are not forming your own family unit. So the two options are okay for you, in the sense that even if you work and save towards uni, and even just and save for your indefinite leave to remain as well, because it's really expensive. And so in some instances where we've had young people with quite a lot of savings, we've been able to explain that they've saved up for university, or they're saving up for their visa fees for indefinite leave, or they've bought a car. So actually working and staying at home, it's by itself, it's not um it's not like something that would definitely affect your visas. But the independence of what you're doing, if you're staying away, if you're staying with your friends, if you're staying with a partner, if you're living in a different city, if you're living with a different family, that's where it then really affects you. So, you're 22 and you plan to start university in 2026. You'll be 25 when you graduate in 2030. Hmm. So your parents have been on a skilled worker visa for quite some time then, for this question. So at 25, as long as you're still dependent on your parents, but the most important thing is that you came into the UK on a visa as a dependent. So at the maybe you were over 18 when you came, I don't know. But if you enter the UK on a dependent visa, and you are allowed to continue extending your leave to remain as a dependent until you get to indefinite long leave to remain, as long as you are not living an independent life and you haven't formed your own family unit and you're still staying under your parents' roof. Um, After graduation, if I cannot find a company to sponsor me, what other options will I have? So if you're coming off your parents' visa, because maybe you want to have independence. So if you decide that you no longer want to be on their visa because you want to maybe work in another city or get your own visa, um, you you can switch to a spouse visa. You can switch to if you can't find a skilled worker, or if you've graduated, you go on to graduate visa, or you go onto your own skilled worker visa, or you go onto your own like a spouse visa. However, I would want to know why you're moving from your parents' visa. It's not that the rules don't allow you to stay. If you're still living in the house or you're only living away for university, you can continue to stay as their dependents until you reach ILR, even if you're 25 or like you've said. So you can. So the fact that you're 25 doesn't mean that you cannot continue to stay on their visa. What is measured is, are you independent and are you living your own life separately, making your own decisions in your own family unit with your own, in your own separate social unit. So that's what's important rather than your age. So on an apprenticeship, um, so the key documents to gather where you've had to move away to be closer to work. um, so if you get an apprenticeship that's really far away from home, right? Um, and you're you've got to keep evidence of the fact that you are in paid learning, which is like equivalent of, say, university, that you are working, but you're also going to university, or you're doing the course you're studying, you're having the day release. But you know, I would really be a bit wary about taking an apprenticeship that moves you far away from home. So if you were my child, because an apprenticeship is different from university, because with university, you live in your halls and then you come back home at holiday, right? So with an apprenticeship, if you're moving and going to live, say you're going to live in Dublin or you're going to live in London, far away, um, the this it may then be a little bit difficult to prove that you are still dependent, because with university, you go and you come back, you go and you come back, you go and you come back. With this, you're moving away for work, so you're moving closer to work. So that may easily be construed as that you've created a separate household. So it may be one that it's like you are, yeah, how can I put this? Yeah, it's like you're playing with fire in a way. So it may be a little bit more difficult to prove that dependency. It may be construed or it may be interpreted as you formed your own separate household, because you're financially independent and you're earning your salary and you're working, even though it's an apprenticeship. So it's a bit different. It's to where you are studying purely and maybe have a part-time job, but you're at university. When it's holiday time, December, everyone goes home. May, everyone goes home. Whereas if you're staying in another city 52 weeks out of the year and then maybe you only visit home once or twice, that feels like independence. So if you get an apprenticeship that's far away, I would consider it very carefully and look at the pros and cons of that, making that decision before I make such a decision, because it may jeopardize your chances at ILR. But it's something where you would have to argue, perhaps, to show evidence that you're still connected with the family. But again, it's dicing, or it's like ice. It's like dicing with ice, I think. I wouldn't advise it. I would think it's a bit dangerous. But if you're just at home and you're having an apprenticeship, or you're just, it's much easier. Then you know, you keep all the evidence and you've got that. But if you're living in a different city, then that's a different ball game now. I hope that makes sense. I'm currently my parents' visa has been curtailed, and we now have less than 15 days left on our 60 days notice. We've been looking to into applying for FLR, and I wanted to know how much more time do we get with FLR, and how long does it take to get approved? Should we even be applying for FLR at this time? So I would so I think I've explained this briefly before when someone asked a similar question. So the FLR that you are applying for is essentially that you're buying time, because the FLR won't get approved just for the fact that you're looking for work. So if you apply, I don't want to describe it as just applying to buy time. So if you don't actually have a basis for family or private life or Article 8 application, and your 60 days are running out, you don't have a valid grounds for this FLRFP for it to succeed as an application. But the point that you're making this application before your leave to remain expires is so that your Section 3C leave, so of the Immigration Act, if Section 3C is that your leave to remain is extended. It extends whilst the application is pending. So it extends whilst the application is pending. So your existing conditions, they generally continue generally continue as well. So your previous conditions that you had, your right to work, etc., it continues. So it's not like you're getting another 60 days or 6 months, or it's just that your leave to remain continues until the application is decided. And if you make an appeal, if you're given an appeal, then it continues on. So if FLR is granted, it's usually because you fit one of the categories where you're applying based on your private life, your long residence here, which is 20 years. If you have a child who has lived here for 7 years and they were born here, and there's substantial obstacles or significant obstacles to reintegration in their country of origin, or there's obstacles to your integration as a family back in your country of origin. So the FLR in itself, if you don't have grounds other than that your 60 days is ending, it won't necessarily be approved. It will most likely be refused, but it's just the period of time when you're waiting for a decision, your leave to remain continues. So you don't want to become an overstayer, because if you let your leave to remain lapse, then your right to rent, your right to work, everything stops. So that's why it's important to make an application so that you're not a person who's here illegally. But that application may not and is most likely not going to succeed if you don't have good, strong grounds for why you're applying. So just applying because you haven't been able to get a sponsor, it's not that it will be approved because of that on its own. But during the time when you're waiting, if you then get sponsorship, you're able to vary it and go back to skilled worker, so that you don't wait until you get a decision, which can be a refusal. And after the refusal, if you don't get a right of appeal, it may then mean you're out of options. You go on to immigration bail, and then you may have to then voluntarily return to your country of origin, or at times be removed. So it's now it's doing the FLR. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get leave to remain, but it's better to do it than to become an overstayer.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to confirm what exactly is FLR because it's my first time hearing that.
Oh, it's
I'm
further
sure.
leave. Further leave to remain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
further leave to
you.
remain. Thank you. Yeah, everyone's using the shortening, so I thought everyone knew them.
Hi, Rumbi. Just before we go on, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, just before
Yes.
we go on, we just wanted to double check. Would you be happy to continue answering questions? Because the team at BBB recognized that, you've had a long day and you were hoping to leave at 8:30. So we just wanted to double check. Would you be happy to keep answering, or should we be looking to wrap it up?
I think we should be looking to wrap it up because
Okay.
the questions won't end. I think
Yeah.
they just keep on coming. And maybe what we can do is because we can then download some of the questions, and
Yeah.
maybe we can then send, like, for your community, we can send like some of the answers.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so
So yeah,
much.
so maybe if we finish like in the next 5 or so minutes, yeah, because we are
Right.
so tired.
Yeah. So should we answer this last question up on the
Yeah,
slide and then wrap it up from there? Thank you so much, Ringo.
thank you. Yeah. I had stopped seeing the time actually. So my mom switched work twice, but has left my visa still with her previous employer until 2029. Should I be worried? No, that's fine. So when your mom switches, you don't have to have a new visa. So you can stay on the old visa. So even if the sponsor license is revoked, it doesn't affect you if the previous company was revoked because you were never attached to the company, you were linked to your mom. So as long as your mother has a valid visa, if say your mom loses her visa and gets the 60 days, then your visa will also be cancelled. But if the license for the previous employer is revoked, that's fine. It's got nothing to do with you because your visa is linked to your mother's visa rather than to the employer because you were not really sponsored by the employer.
Okay.
Yeah. And maybe just another one that I just wanted to answer was I saw one about estrangement from parents. So where I think I saw it in the chat where a young person has been estranged or they've fallen out with their parents. So where there is a family breakdown, um, and things can happen, isn't it, with adult children and their parents. Um, it's if they remove you, because they can also remove you off the visa as a dependent. Um, and you can also get 60 days. So the main applicant can remove a spouse, they can remove a child, they can remove any dependent if they have challenges. So I know some parents can remove children if they've got like behavior issues with them or things like that. But if you're a dependent who's been removed by your parent, then you will have to, if you're over 18, look for your own visa route. So it could be your own sponsorship, because as a dependent, you can still move into sponsorship into like health and social care, you can get your own sponsorship. You just have to work for 3 months and obviously have your English and your driving. So you could do that. Or if you're in a relationship, you can then move to a spouse. So it's then important for you to look at your own circumstances and make a separate application or return voluntarily. But the main applicant can remove even children who are dependents. It's not just spouses. So it is something that can happen. And so you then have to make steps around that. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
So handing over
Thank
to
you.
you, Angela.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Isha. We just want to say a massive thank you to Rumbi. Thank you for taking the time out just to join us and to give us these amazing answers to our questions. Yeah, like Samuela said, it was incredibly insightful. I believe that, a lot of people have been able to get their questions answered. So thank you so much to Tulia. Thank you so much to Rumbi. And like I said before, they do have drop-in sessions, I believe, every Thursday in Coventry. So if you are based in Coventry, do well to check them out. But yeah, we recognize that a lot of people have unanswered questions, and we apologize about that. But it is an avenue to join our community, Blossoming Beyond Borders. We are a thriving group of young immigrants, and we're just navigating post GCSE, post A levels, the whole shebang, university, apprenticeships, we're a group of people, we've got questions. Some people have the answers. We share just the things that we've been through, sharing the answers. And, it's also an opportunity to join the group and whatever questions you haven't been able to get answers. There's a link in the chat. So do well to join our community on WhatsApp and follow us on our socials. We're quite big on LinkedIn as well. Once again, massive shout out to Tulia. Thank you so much, Rumbi, for joining us. This was really insightful to me as well. And
Yeah.
before we wrap up,
I also
I was
wanted
hoping
to
for
ask
us
if you
to.
don't mind. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, if we can please circulate. I saw there was a link to book a session with Tulia. Clearly, like there are immigration advisors. So if from, because I've been exposed to a lot of information I didn't know existed. So I didn't know that it was more technical than this. I didn't know we're doing case studies. I didn't know we're doing case laws. So if you are saying that maybe your case is not a random thing that somebody can just tell you in 15 seconds, you might as well like seek technical legal advice. They would drop the link so you can also access it via there. Angela, please go on.
Thank you so much, Fatia. So if we can turn our not turn it off. If we can turn on our videos, I know we're all confident, smiley people. So if we can kindly turn off our videos so that we can get a quick picture, that would be amazing before we leave the call. I don't know if you guys can see him, but yeah, if we can do that. I believe the links, yep. So Rumbi has put the link for legal advice from Tulia in the chat. And if you're hoping to join our community, Blossoming Beyond Borders, we're in the chat as well. Join our community. But yeah, before you leave, let's just get a quick picture.
Should we do a
The biggest smile
countdown?
ever.
Are we getting
Do the
ready?
countdown. Okay. Should I count from 10 or 5?
So we don't get people all aware.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
Okay,
Guys,
so are
big
we
smiles.
getting ready?
I'll count
And
down
then
from 5.
should we do cheese or like do a count? I feel like countdown is
Mm,
you know.
let's do countdown. We can do cheese. If you're too shy, maybe just, I don't know,
Yeah.
you don't have to come up mute and say cheese. Just show us you're 32 until you're 32. I believe it's 30. But yeah, okay, I'll count. Someone said cheese in chat. Okay, I'll count from 5, guys. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cheese.
Oh, that's captured. Thank
Amazing.
you.
Thank you guys so much for joining. We really appreciate. Do want to join the community. We want to see you there live and direct. We want to see you.
Mhm, mhm,
And we
mhm.
will welcome you. We have a dedicated team of people that welcome. But yeah, thank you guys so
Rumbi,
much.
to
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much, Rumbi.
Yeah, sorry, I have a question. Sorry, can we hold something like this again?
Oh,
For sure.
definitely.
100%.
Definitely. The demand is high. We need it.
Mhm.
We are
Yeah,
here for our
And this
people.
is an appeal to Rumbi, so we'll definitely be coming back to
We will
you.
be back.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye. Thank